Oh, guys, I read this piece today. Okay. First off, now here's the breaking news. I got to give this to you the way that it was given to me. So I'm reading this in print, but Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield is off. Okay. Rodney Dangerfield had a great bit, and I saw it when I was 9 years old. And Rodney Dangerfield simply said, I retired a year ago, but nobody knew. And the reason that's funny is, how do you retire if nobody knows? If nobody cares that you were retired, were you retired? And I only bring that to tie this in. This fight is off. Excuse me. When was it on? What do you mean the fight between Evander and Tyson is off? They're like, as though there was a press release that this was on. So then they start to work backwards, right? And only the dum-dums of boxing could put a story so fumbled together. And how they could get a dum-dum writer to write the dum-dums words, and then you got to, I mean, the whole thing is just a piece of hilarity. But they've been in talks with Evander Holyfield's manager. Okay, excuse me. If I meet you at a dinner party or in public or at a social event, and you identify yourself to me as Evander Holyfield's manager, I am then going to know that you are unemployed. Not for nothing, but if that is how you represent yourself, that you represent a boxer named Evander Holyfield, then I know that you haven't worked in 15 years. I mean, just by example, it might be something you want to, it might be something you don't want to just go around name dropping all the time. But they were in furious negotiations with Mike Tyson's side. Okay, this is part of the article. Furious negotiations with Mike Tyson's side. Very intense for the last 3 months. About what? What would you possibly have to discuss? Do you want to box or not? It's going to be 2 minutes a round. There's going to be 8 rounds. No commission in the world's going to sanction this, but we found a way around that called exhibition, and we can't award it a winner, but the governing body can, and we can't interview you in the ring, but we can take you on the ramp. Everything's going to be fine. You're going to make a whole bunch of money, likely have some kind of a resolution to this conflict. And Evander, you did lose an ear, not for nothing, but you got the right to get this guy back. Great. What is there to talk about? You're going to discuss how big the gloves are? You're going to discuss the weight class? Do you need me to tell you? They're 16-ounce gloves. The class is heavyweight. I mean, what here do you guys not know? What here needs to be discussed? Evander, you have no say whatsoever at whatever money they're going to give you, because you have no other offer. So that part's handled. I'm not sure his manager knew. That part's handled. How much does Mike need? And the problem with Mike is he's not one of these guys where the answer is more. Right? You know, these kind of guys that just try to price themselves out of a fight. Well, I'm willing to pay you X amount, which is 5 times more than I've ever paid you, and I've promoted your last 10 fights. More. That's just their more. Rumor was that Mike said no to $25 million. Now, that fight's not worth $25 million. But you will always fight. You know, I talk about the boxers being dum-dums. I talk about the writers being dum-dums. It spills over to the promoters. There will be a promoter out there that wants to put his initials on a poster so bad and have Jimmy Lennon say his name so bad, even if it's one time and he goes out of business. He will put up that money. You can find these. This has driven the sport of boxing from the beginning of time, is fake tough guys that want to be associated with real tough guys that happen to have a few bucks. Even if it was dad's money that was left to him in a will, they'll put it up and lose it. And that's the only thing that keeps boxing afloat, because nobody watches it. At any rate, Mike would walk away from that, no matter how ridiculous that money is, for a 16-minute exhibition with a guy who he's not even expected to beat. I mean, Mike would walk away from that. I'll tell you a quick story why I say that. Mike Tyson was offered a fight in K1 against Bob Sapp. Straight boxing. Not that Bob could kick him in, but it was going to be a straight-up boxing. They were going to do it in K1, straight-up boxing. Boxing gloves, boxing everything. Bob Sapp, who had never boxed. Had kickboxed, had never boxed. Mike would have beat Bob, and he would have beaten him so bad, and none of you will dispute that. He would have beaten him very quickly. And K1 got all the way up to a $15 million offer. And this is when Mike's name was in headlines for all the wrong reasons. Right? I mean, this is when he was fat and before he realized you can be cool with some weird walk of society if you smoke pot publicly. This is before the Hangover movies and the tattoo on his face. This is when all you're reading about Mike Tyson is only bad things and hardship things from a financial standpoint. Very embarrassing, very tough, but it was also very real. Mike was in a really tough spot. It was just one of those things. He brought in good money. He spent too much, but this was made public. He needed the money, and this is an easy fight. He said no. And we're sure never going to paint a picture where Mike Tyson was scared of Bob Sapp. We're not going to paint a picture where Mike Tyson was afraid to go to Japan to do the fight. We're not going to paint a picture where the money wasn't beyond fair. You could never do that fight in the States because no commission would sanction it. I mean, right, it was one of these, but this was going to be an easy night. Very similar to what Floyd did with that kid in Bryson. No brainer. Floyd was smart enough to take the money. Mike was stubborn enough to say no. So I just bring that to you because I don't know where these furious, the furious negotiations, I don't know where they broke down. But I have a feeling when the story comes out that Mike was offered $25M and said, no, it's going to be portrayed as though he was scared. Mike will say no to fights for reasons that aren't fear, and they aren't money motivated. I don't fully understand it. Mike made it clear on this comeback. First person to the table with $1 million, I'll sign with. Mike made that clear in an interview. He just found out he could do better. Competition took over. He found out he could do better than that. Made it clear it was about the money. All of a sudden, it's not. But the fight that never was is now officially off.